Our next speaker is Kam Razavi, who's going to be presenting his work entitled Journalism for Climate Solutions, Rethinking Standard Approaches to Climate Change Reporting. Kam is a global traveler, and he's explored approximately 40 countries. He holds a bachelor's in journalism from Ryerson University and a Master of Arts from Tsinghua University in China, and is currently a PhD student in SFU School of Communication. He has a keen interest in countering the spread of disinformation on social platforms, and he has an extensive background in television and news production. Really looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Let us welcome Kam.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much. Climate change is one of the most urgent and serious issues facing us today. But why are so many people so apathetic to it? Why do we have elevator conversations in Canada about the weather, but hardly ever talk about climate? And why is there so little news media attention paid to climate change? And how can we change that? So my research explores these questions. Tonight, I'm going to begin by briefly talking about what climate journalism usually looks like. I'll then describe some traditional approaches to journalism, and then I'll explain some of the ways to better engage on climate through journalism. The standard assumption of climate communication is that people will finally take action if only they have more information about all of the scary impacts of climate change. But more knowledge is not necessarily linked to action. It's counterintuitive, but people who are literate in the science of climate change are not necessarily more concerned about it. What shapes their perceptions about the risks, far more than the research, is their circle of friends, their political affiliations, their communities, their upbringing, their education, and their values. Now, another standard feature of climate journalism is doom and gloom. We've all seen the videos of the ice sheets breaking off and the stricken polar bears. However sad, people will not act on goals they see as impossible. What can I myself do to change that? And finally, climate stories emphasize individual and consumer choices. Recycling, plastic bags, paper straws. Now, those are all great things, but they gloss over the importance of political action, the need to get politically involved as a collective, and the role that system change plays. Now, here are some traditional approaches to journalism. I want to set what I mentioned about climate journalism against these traditional approaches to news. Journalists are supposed to act as monitors or watchdogs. Our job is to speak truth to power, hold the politicians' feet to the fire, sound the alarm. Our job is not to facilitate informed debate. It's not to engage audiences on solutions. But why not? The second tenet of journalism is this idea of detachment. We gather the facts and relay them objectively so the audience can make up its own mind. But we need to engage audiences much more creatively than that if we're going to get people engaged on climate. And finally, journalists are supposed to seek balance, usually by telling both sides of the story. But what if one side is less true than the other? Or what if one side is not true at all? So we need more complexity. So how do we engage on climate through journalism without directly advocating for things? Well, it's crucial to know your audience. So Yale University breaks down the American population into 6 different groups, 6 Americas, based on their level of concern about climate change. And as you might imagine, people who fall into the alarmed or concerned groups are the most likely to be responsive to messages about climate change. So it's really important to speak to people, not by shoveling facts at them, but by speaking to them through their values, their emotions, and through perspectives that they're familiar with and that make sense. This is a challenge to monitorial, detached, objective, doom and gloom, individual choice, standard mainstream journalism. Finally, consider positive psychology and solutions. Like journalism, psychology has long focused on treating problems. So conversely, an emphasis on positive emotions enhances our ability to look at the long road, to connect the dots, and to think creatively for ways out of complex problems. In short, to eliminate the hope gap. And that is why solutions are so important. And here are some sources. We can talk about them more after if you're interested. Thank you.